आहेत का ऑनलाईन?
आहेत ना सर. कोणाच पण कोणाला येतील आता. विचारून बघा.
हॅलो 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 गुड आफ्टरनून. कधी आहेत लक्षात येत नाही मला, आवाज तर येत नाही. हॅलो
रिप्लाय द्या म्हणून सांगा.
हॅलो, दिस इज डॉक्टर मनोज. इज एनीवन अराउंड? हॅलो हॅलो, are you guys available for the lecture?
Yes sir, we can.
Yes, that's nice. So this is our, for me at least, this is first time I'm doing something like this, which is online lecture or something. So good afternoon everyone. Let's start our hematology lecture today. So this is aplastic anemia which we will be discussing today. So initially we have completed our hello. Yes, I think more than 40 students are there who are available at present, and maybe many of you again will become available. So let's start with the aplastic anemia. The name of this lecture, or the title of this lecture, is aplastic anemia: definition, classification, diagnosis and management. This is fourth lecture in our lecture series of hematology as a part of medicine lectures. Aplastic anemia, this presentation I had made for consultants or the people who usually treat patients, but main thing which is needed for the students is the aplastic anemia when it comes to the long answer or the long question in the exam. So in that we have to consider definition, classification, diagnosis and management. These are the four parts which one must know about the aplastic anemia. In this lecture, we will go through a small case, the definition, diagnosis, and the risk stratification, that is classification of aplastic anemia, and the various treatment options. In those treatment options, mainly we need ATG, that is anti-thymocyte globulin, and the cyclosporin. L-trombopig is the new drug, and the bone marrow transplant, which is the definitive treatment for these cases. Okay, so this is a small case. A 14-year-old girl who presents with easy fatigability and gum bleeding. Usually these patients, the patients with aplastic anemia, they have all three lines going down. That is hemoglobin being low, WBC count being low, and the platelet count being low. And usually they present with these type of features: easy fatigability because of anemia when hemoglobin is low, and gum bleeding because of the thrombocytopenia. They may catch usually the fever, which is because of the low neutrophil count or the neutropenia. Her routine CBC picture was suggestive of hemoglobin of 4.0 and the MCV normal. You must be remembering MCV value of between 75 to 95 is normocytic anemia. If it is less than 75, we consider it as microcytic anemia. If it is more than 95, we call it as macrocytic anemia. So her MCV value is normal, and total leukocyte count, that is 1500. Normal total leukocyte count is 4000 to 10,000. So 1500 is obviously low, that is less. So in that case, we must say that this patient is having leukopenia. So anemia is there, leukopenia is there, and platelet count is 4000. Normal platelet count is 150,000, that is 1,50,000 to 450,000, that is 4,50,000. So 4000 is pretty low. So she has hemoglobin low, WBC low, and platelet count low, and that is called as pancytopenia. So a 14-year-old girl presenting with features associated with anemia and gum bleeding, which is associated with thrombocytopenia, and CBC picture suggestive of pancytopenia, hemoglobin low, WBC count low, and platelet count is also low. Her peripheral smear was suggestive of normocytic normochromic blood picture because macrocytic anemia, that is megaloblastic anemia, can come with the pancytopenic picture when it is gross megaloblastic anemia. So that is why seeing peripheral smear is always useful or always needed for the patients who present with pancytopenia. Sometimes leukemia can also present as pancytopenia, that is called as aleukemic leukemia, in which leukemic cells don't come inside the blood. That is called aleukemic leukemia. But we see frequently some blast cells on the peripheral blood, and then it can guide us, or it can prompt us that yes, this patient can be a leukemia case. Other investigations were normal in this case, and bone marrow aspiration and biopsy was done. It was hypocellular. Hypocellular means there should be something normocellular, there should be something hypercellular, there should be something hypocellular. Normocellular means the cellularity of the bone marrow is as expected, that is normal. If it is less than expected, it is called as hypocellular. If it is more than expected, it is called as hypercellular. So in these patients or in any individual, when we call it as normocellular bone marrow, it is calculated according to the age of patient. When you are born, your bone marrow contains 100% cells and 0% fat. And as your age progresses, the bone marrow becomes more and more hypocellular. That is, cellularity keep on decreasing and fat content increases. So at the age of 10 years, usually it is 10% fat and cellularity goes down by 10%, that is 90%. If you are 30-year-old, that means cellularity will be 70% and 30% will be fat. If you are 70-year-old, then 70% will be the fat and 30% will be cellularity. And that cellularity is normocellular. But if it is less than that, it is called as hypocellular. So for this girl of 40-year-old, we expect a cellularity of 85 to 90%. And if that cellularity goes down less than 30%, then we call it as hypocellular bone marrow or aplastic bone marrow. So this is the typical picture of hypocellular bone marrow. I hope you are able to see this picture also. I am not sure how exactly this online thing works, but if this is the same, then it all replaced with the fatty tissue or fat, and many infrequent cells are there which are available. So this is called as hypocellular bone marrow. So aplastic anemia. So what is the pathophysiology? Why exactly the aplastic anemia happens? Initially it was supposed to be related with some drugs, related with some infection, related with some radiation, related with some other things. But nowadays, as the research is going on, as the research is advancing, we now know that it is because of some autoimmune disturbances. So, because of autoimmune trigger to the body, T cell becomes hyperactive. Here T cells are there, and T cells become hyperactive. They secrete some cytokines which kill the hematopoietic stem cells and it clear the marrow. So, the thing which incites, or the thing which triggers the autoimmune thing may be different, maybe infection, maybe some drug, maybe some radiation, or maybe anything, or maybe idiopathic. But initially some triggering insight is there which initiates the T cell response, and T cells clear the bone marrow. It is the pathophysiological aplastic anemia. Definition wise, pancytopenia with hypocellular bone marrow in absence of any other infiltration or myelofibrosis, it is called as aplastic anemia. Normal myelocellularity is usually according to the age, as we have discussed. If the cellularity is less than 25%, it is hypocellular bone marrow. So pancytopenia with hypocellular bone marrow is aplastic anemia. Simple definition, you just have to keep in mind. Pancytopenia, that is hemoglobin low, WBC low, platelet low. Pancytopenia with hypocellular bone marrow being hypocellular. Just pancytopenia can't be a aplastic anemia. For diagnosis of aplastic anemia, one must do the marrow and quantify the cellularity of marrow, which has to be quantified according to the age of patient. Okay, so at least two of the following: there is HB low, platelet count less than 50,000, and neutrophil count, not the total leukocyte count, but in that it is the neutrophil count which needs to be taken into account, and neutrophil count being low, that goes into the favor of aplastic anemia. Then comes the epidemiology. So it is quite common in our country, aplastic anemia. In developed world or the first nations, we see less aplastic anemia. Just to let you know that when I was in Canada, in 1 year or in 2 years time, I have seen only 2 cases of aplastic anemia, and in India in last 2 years I have seen 100 cases of aplastic anemia. So it is supposed to be very common in East Asian countries or the India, China, and other Asian countries. It affects equally to the male and female, and usually it is young age or the old age, that is biphasic age distribution is there. Etiology wise, these are the various etiological agents, just to let you know, or just to make sure that you know these, so that if question comes in exam, you have to mention these causes. One is radiation, second is toxins, malignancies, drugs, clonal disorders, paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, and some inherited disorders are also there. One must mention this thing because inherited disorders are Fanconi's anemia, dyskeratosis congenita, and others. These are chromosomal breakage syndromes in which aplastic anemia can come at the early age with typical feature, phenotypic features to these patients. So, how to investigate? So, first comes the definition of aplastic anemia, that is pancytopenia with hypocellular bone marrow, and how we quantify the cellularity of marrow. Second comes the causes of aplastic anemia. These are radiation, infection, toxins, chemotherapy. Then comes the inherited bone marrow failure syndrome, in which comes the Fanconi's anemia and dyskeratosis congenita. Fanconi's anemia, you have to mention typical features of Fanconi's anemia, in which pointed chin, low set ears, then comes the webbed neck, then comes the horseshoe kidneys, all those features, and the typical hand, that is polydactyly, the typical rash over the body, hepatosplenomegaly, short stature. These are the features of Fanconi's anemia. Dyskeratosis congenita, in that also you have to mention the features in which nails become brittle, skin becomes dark, in which patient becomes short-heighted, in which hairs become early gray. So these are the features of inherited bone marrow failure syndrome. Then comes the how to investigate a case of pancytopenia. So whenever a young adult or an old age person, in which like usually aplastic anemia has this biphasic or bimodal age distribution. If it is young patient presenting with pancytopenia, you have to uh, do bone marrow biopsy. So bone marrow biopsy histology is important to rule out leukemia, myelodysplastic syndrome, metastatic cancers, all those things, and to see the cellularity of them. Even on the bone marrow aspirate, we have to do the chromosomal analysis to rule out chromosomal breakage, that is congenital syndromes. And depending upon that, you usually diagnose. This is how you investigate these patients. So classification of aplastic anemia is the next step for us. So one good trial was there in 1975, and they tried to classify these patients, and that is called as Comita criteria. Comita, CAMITTA. Comita criteria is the criteria to classify cases of aplastic anemia. In that it comes the non-severe aplastic anemia, severe aplastic anemia, and very severe aplastic anemia. So more commonly it is severe aplastic anemia, wherein patients come with a diagnostic criteria of less than 25% of bone marrow cellularity, plus neutrophils are less than 500, platelet count less than 20,000, and reticulocyte count of less than 2,000. So if one of these is there, it is usually severe aplastic anemia. Very severe aplastic anemia, if neutrophil count is less than 200, absolute neutrophil count less than 200, despite of anything else, it is very severe aplastic anemia. If neutrophil count is 200 to 500, it is severe aplastic anemia. And if it is not fulfilling the criteria of severe aplastic anemia and very severe aplastic anemia, it is non-severe aplastic anemia. So this is how we classify aplastic anemia. This is severe, very severe, and non-severe aplastic anemia. This is how we classify the aplastic anemia. So definition of aplastic anemia, causes of aplastic anemia, classification of aplastic anemia, and how to investigate the aplastic anemia. These are the four things which we have discussed up till now. Let's go for the treatment option. How to treat these cases. In of treatment of any condition usually depends upon the age of patient. If age is more than 50, then it is difficult to treat and we have to go slowly considering the patient's age. If it is young patient, then we have to go aggressively and try to do best for the patient. So 35 is the cutoff for this patient. If patient has less than 35-year-old, best treatment option remains the HLA match sibling donor transplant, that is bone marrow transplant. We have to do a HLA matching done. HLA is human leukocyte antigen, and depending upon that we have to decide someone is donor or not. It is done on the peripheral blood only. We have to do a peripheral blood or the swab, that is nasal or the oral swab of the patient for the HLA matching with the donor. Only sibling can be a donor and chances of sibling being donor is 25%. So if I have two siblings, each one of them has 25% chance of being available as or being positive as donor. Mother, father or other relatives can't be donor. Mother, father can be a haploidentical donor in which half HLA match is there. So only sibling can be a donor, and that is decided on the HLA matching. Blood group mismatch is not the problem. In bone marrow transplant, any blood group can be given to anyone. There should not be a problem. Main thing is only associated with the this thing is uh, main thing is only we need HLA match, that is important. So if less than 35-year age is there, one have to do a HLA matching for the sibling. If HLA match donor is available, one has to go for bone marrow transplant, which is the definitive treatment. This disease is very deadly, patient being so neutropenic, patient being so thrombocytopenic and requiring blood transfusion. Usually less than 1 year survival is very low if we don't go for a treatment for this patient. And best treatment option is bone marrow transplant, in which more than 90% success rate is there if HLA match donor is available to the patient. If it is not available, then there is problem. Then we have to go for the ATG, anti-thymocyte globulin. Anti-thymocyte globulin, as we have discussed in the pathophysiology of this disease, it is autoimmune disease in which T cell becomes hyperactive and horse ATG, that is anti-thymocyte globulin. These globulins dampen this T cell response, that is called as ADGAM, anti-thymocyte globulin, plus cyclosporin. Cyclosporin is a immunosuppressive drugs, and these immunosuppressive drugs help patient to recover. Usually it is 3 months time they take to recover, and 50% of them respond to the horse ATG. If there is no response at the 3 or 6 months to this patient, we have to go for the transplant. Initially we will try searching for the HLA match donor, but if it is not available, we have to go for unrelated donor search. There are NMDP, that is National Marrow Donor Program. Like registries available, Datri is the Indian registry. These are the marrow donor registries available all across the world, and someone can be a donor for these patients, voluntary donor for this patient by donating the stem cells. Usually, these stem cells are collected from the peripheral blood only. So nowadays, bone marrow transplant is called as hematopoietic stem cell transplant or the peripheral blood stem cell transplant, in which these stem cells are collected from the peripheral blood of the donor and they are given to the patient after giving conditioning. Conditioning means it conditions body to accept the bone marrow cells or the accept the stem cells, in which rejection rate becomes less and the bone marrow becomes receptive to these stem cells. So this is how we go for treatment to be decided. So first comes the stem cell transplant. Second option comes the horse ATG and cyclosporin, and third option comes the only drug, that is cyclosporin. If patient don't respond to immunosuppressive therapy, IST is the immunosuppressive therapy. If patient is not responding to the immunosuppressive therapy, that is ATG and cyclosporin, then we have to search for again available donor. If available donor is there, go for transplant. Whatever the option is there, unrelated donor is there, good. No, then haploidentical. Haploidentical means half match. HL is half match. And other option is umbilical cord donor. Umbilical cord cells are very naive and in which some mismatch can be accepted. So umbilical cord donor can be the option. If this also not available, then these are the various new drugs or the trials which are going on for these patients, in which alemtuzumab, that is anti-CD56. Then comes the trial of androgens, that is danazol, stanozolol. L-trombopeg. L-trombopeg is a platelet stimulating agent, that is thrombopoietin receptor analog. It increases the platelet count. Initially, it was tried for the platelet count increment in patients with the aplastic anemia, and it was found that it increases the overall marrow response, in which patient develops good hemoglobin, in which neutrophils also increase, and in which platelet also increase. So now it is included in the primary treatment of aplastic anemia, in which we use cyclosporine, the anabolic steroid, that is androgens, plus L-trombopeg, that is thrombopoietin receptor analog. Some experimental therapies are also tried in the clinical trials and they are under pipeline, still not available. So these are the treatment options available to this patient. First and foremost is the stem cell transplant, that is hematopoietic stem cell transplant from a matched sibling donor. Second comes anti-thymocyte globulin, that is horse ATG. Third comes the drug, that is cyclosporine, androgens, and L-trombopeg, and fourth comes the experimental therapies which are available. This person, that is Eli McIncoff, he is the father of ATG. If you are just to share one story of aplastic anemia and how ATG becomes available, this person has not invented anything, but he was so observant. What happens to the patient? He was so observant. He was so keen observer that he found that ATG can be a treatment option to the patient. ATG is anti-thymocyte globulin and it is usually given for all the transplant, even for the liver transplant, even for the kidney transplant, to avoid or to suppress the rejection rate. So in bone marrow transplant of this patient of aplastic anemia, we give ATG as a part of conditioning regimen. In 1899, he had given ATG to one patient and as a part of conditioning regimen, but unfortunately that patient rejected, 1977, that patient rejected this graft, and even after rejection of the graft, after 3 months his WBC count started growing up, his platelet count growing up, his hemoglobin started growing up. So he thought that what has happened? The graft has rejected, but still patient is showing the response. Why patient is showing the response? And after due thinking, he got that it is because of anti-lymphocyte globulin in the bone marrow transplant which we have used. That has worked as a treatment option for these patients. And from there, we got a new treatment for these patients of aplastic anemia, anti-thymocyte globulin or anti-lymphocyte globulin, which can be utilized as a treatment option. So just keen observation of that case. That too, the case which has failed to respond, from there they got something as new discovery. So always try to be thinking, try to be observant, try to be giving thought to the things which are happening around you. So even if that patient has not responded to the bone marrow transplant, still this world has got a new treatment option for the aplastic anemia just by keen observation and thinking what happens to the patient. Okay. So these are the various treatment options. These are the various types of ATGs also available. Horse and rabbit ATG. Horse ATG is the most important thing, and it in which response is very good. A rabbit ATG is supposed to be more lymphocytotoxic, but it doesn't show that much of response. It is usually the half the response of horse ATG. So initially it was anti-thymocyte globulin coming from the rabbit, but now it is the horse ATG which is used to all across the world. This is the trial which has showed that horse versus rabbit ATG, in horse ATG is far more superior. Rabbit ATG has 35 to 45% chance of responding, while horse ATG has a 70% chance of responding. So this is how it exactly works. Mechanism of action: it causes T cell depletion and interferes with the dendritic cell function, along with modulation of T cell surface molecules and apoptosis of B cells. This all change in cytokine milieu of that patient's bone marrow leads to the response to the anti-thymocyte globulin. So this is how we treat these cases. Yes, there are some side effects associated with anti-thymocyte globulin, that is infusion-related reactions, anaphylaxis, and serum sickness-like reaction in which arthralgia, myalgia, rash, and fever comes, and it can be treated with the steroids. GCSF can also be option usually, but it is not the indication because marrow is hypocellular, and from where exactly this granulocyte will get stimulated, or from where exactly the granulocyte get into the blood. So marrow has to be functional to work. But sometimes if patient has very bad infection, that time only we try giving GCSF, that is granulocyte colony stimulating factor. It may or may not help, but it can be a life saving in situation where patient is having severe sepsis. Cyclosporin, which we have discussed, cyclosporin is a good option for these patients to be treated, and the response rate is less as compared to only ETG, but it is given along with the ETG and it responds very well. Long-term side effects are there. So these are various treatment options for these patients, and danazole is anabolic steroid, which usually we, and these are the the hematopoietic stem cell transplant, how exactly it works. So this is all about the aplastic anemia. So just to summarize in quick, so that we can take the questions from you, whatever you have in your mind. Aplastic anemia is a marrow failure syndrome in which bone marrow fails to produce the normal amount of blood cells. Hemoglobin comes down, WBC, that is absolute neutrophil counts come down, and the platelet comes down. That is called as pancytopenia. So pancytopenia with hypocellular bone marrow is aplastic anemia, in which if patient's bone marrow shows less than 25% cellularity is the definition. Second thing comes the causes of aplastic anemia. In causes, we have radiation, we have inherited bone marrow failure syndrome, we have various drugs, we have chemotherapeutic agent, we have some infections, we have some alkalitic agents, and various other things, toxins and all. So these are the causes of aplastic anemia, but we never know the exact cause for a particular patient, and most of the times it is idiopathic. That is 90% we don't know the exact cause why aplastic anemia happens. It has bimodal age incidence, in which young age patients do get aplastic anemia, or the old age more than 60-year-old. Then comes the pathophysiology, in which hyperactive T cells which secrete various cytokines, which leads to the death of the stem cells, and this is the reason why someone develops the aplastic anemia. Then comes the classification of aplastic anemia. We have discussed about the Kamita criteria. In Kamita criteria, it is severe aplastic anemia, very severe aplastic anemia, or non-severe aplastic anemia. Severe aplastic anemia is the most common condition, and in that neutrophil count of less than 500, reticulocyte count of less than 20,000, and platelet count of less than 20,000. This is how it is. If neutrophil count is less than 200, then it is very severe aplastic anemia. And if it is not very severe or severe aplastic anemia, it is non-severe, not fitting into these two criteria. Then comes the treatment options for these patients. We have discussed about hematopoietic stem cell transplant. We have discussed about the ATG, and we have discussed about the cyclosporin, danazol, and we have discussed about the various research molecule like L-trombopag and all. So this is all about the aplastic anemia. I'm happy to take the questions. If someone has any questions, you can ask, or you can just type the questions. And next Friday we will discuss about the, I think, hemolytic anemia or something like that. Just let me see. If some questions are there, please type questions. I can read those questions and answer. Anyone has any questions? So next week, I think we have introduction to WBCs, eranulocytosis, and leukemia. So that is AML, ALL, CML, CLL. Try to read about the leukemias. We will go for primary thing about leukemia, and then in next lecture we discuss about the management of leukemia. So that will be there next Friday. Okay, is that okay? Any questions from you? Namrata, Sunit.
No, sir.
Okay, excellent. Sounds right. Okay, I hope this lecture was fruitful to you. Was it possible for you to see the presentation?
Sir.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So you could see the PPT presentation. Okay, sounds right. Good. So next time also I will come with a good PPT of WBC and diagonal cytosis and the leukemias, and we will discuss about that. Okay, sounds right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Bye for now. Yes.